Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So if you have not watched my video about Patricia, Your Name is Written in the Stars, parts 1, 2, and 3, I would like to invite you to watch them so you can follow the sequence of the story. Patricia actually is my mother who is now in heaven. So these videos are all dedicated to her. And today you're going to watch another episode, my grandmother's rules in the house. So I'm sure you will have fun and perhaps you can learn something about culture in the past. So without much ado, I will give you the story now and enjoy. See you. Thank you very much. My grandmother was like a commander in the army. She had a lot of rules in the house. At the early age, my grandmother trained me so hard to pray the rosary and master all the mysteries, joyful, sorrowful, and glorious mysteries. She said I should devote my time memorizing the three mysteries and Psalms. She gave me a bunch of novena booklets to read and memorize. I learned to read Latin words, though I did not understand what they meant, and I mastered memorizing them from listening to my grandmother's reading during our daily rosary at 6 p.m. I asked my grandmother what those words meant, and she freaked out and said, "Why do you keep asking? What matters is that all of those are prayers to God, and God understands what those words meant." Asking questions was a big problem because my grandmother got easily irked every time I asked questions. I understood many years later that she trained me to master the rosary so I could lead the rosary in the chapel during our patron saint fiesta in May. At my grandparents' house, there were many rules. No dinner if failed to join the rosary at 6 p.m. Otherwise, I should pray the rosary on my own before I was allowed to eat. I should be in the house at 6 p.m. because she said that at 6 p.m., the spirits from another world are actively present. It is the other children's turn to use the playground. If one was still outside house playing at 6 p.m. onwards, this would make the parents from another world mad, and severe accidents could happen, like someone could trip, fall, or bump into something hard, or break some bones. In the case of the rule about no dinner without praying the rosary, I would say that my grandmother broke her own rule. I felt she was unfair because many times my sister had not joined the rosary and still she could eat dinner. My sister had excuses like she was cooking in the kitchen for dinner, or she would always make it an excuse that school was far, the reason she would come home late. She would start cooking at the time we were about to start praying the rosary. It seemed to me that she tricked us, or she was enjoying a special treatment from my grandmother. There were rules before, during, and after a meal. Before meal time, my job was to set the table. I liked it because this was my opportunity to demonstrate my creativity and establish my own system. I set a rule that each one has a designated seat. Each should have his or her own spoon and fork, plate, cup, glasses, with color coding and markings. I made sure the foods were well arranged at the center of the round table. Then I led the short prayer before meal. During a meal, there should be no slurping, burping, and talking about dirty topics such as someone had diarrhea and had visited the bathroom several times, or someone threw up or vomited. No elbows on the table, no slouching, and say please if you want another helping. Wait for old folks to leave the table first before the young ones. Consume everything from your plate, and my own addition to the rule: position the spoon and fork side by side, facing outward after eating. After dinner, I should remove everything from the table, wipe the table with soap and water. My older sister's part was to wash dishes, pots, and pans because I was too small and too short to reach the sink. I had a feeling she wasn't happy about that. My grandmother said that it was embarrassing to hang underwear outside the house for passers-by to see. Besides, the witch was going to put some chili peppers on the front side of the underwear if they are left outside after 6 p.m. My grandmother prohibited our neighbors from hanging their clothes near her backyard. She dreaded to see our neighbors' clothes, blankets, towels, because, according to her, their clothes still looked dirty, old, and worn out, and it could make the place, especially her garden, look unsightly. It was against the rule to wear clothes not starched and ironed. It should be starched to make it look neat, flat, and straight when ironed. Besides, ironing clothes kill the bacteria. Sometimes too much starch hurt like a sharp object, causing sore on my skin. I should organize my clothes in the cabinet for the church, for school, for the market, and for home, except my underwear, which I categorized into two: for church, school, and market, and for home and sleep. My grandmother emphasized that I should be honest at all times. It was vacation time, and my aunt, who was an English teacher in high school, and my cousins, her favorites from Cebu and Mindanao, were baking cakes. My grandmother was going downtown at that time, and before she left, she told me to make sure those people in the kitchen are not stealing the eggs in the nest, because those eggs were specially bred from fighting cocks. My aunt's rule was kids should not be around in the kitchen when she was cooking or baking. It means I should wait until it's time to eat. But how I wished she would allow me to see how to bake a cake. I was concealing myself behind the kitchen door, and I could hear their conversations clearly. My aunt was saying to my cousin, "Hey, I think we need more eggs. Go down to the poultry house and get 4 or 5 eggs from the nest." When my grandmother came back home, I ran to her and took the basket full of meat and fish and some seasoning. And I said, Grandma, they did not steal the eggs. I was terrified by the way my grandmother looked at me. I could see the anger in her eyes. She knew I was saying the opposite, and she hurriedly went straight to the poultry house, and I could hear her screaming like someone was attacking her. She freaked out and raised her voice at my aunt. Why did you steal the eggs? I told you those were special breed. I saw my aunt shaking her head and said, I knew who the culprit is. Who else? And my cousins regarded me with anger in their eyes. I did not eat the cake, nor did my grandmother. So thank you for watching this story about my grandmother's rules in the house. So I hope you had fun. And the next episode is about my grandmother's rituals with her friends. And it is also an interesting story about rituals and ceremonies in the past. So I'll see you then. Thank you very much for your support, and please subscribe and click the subscribe button so you will be with me whenever I will be making videos. Thank you and have a great time. Bye bye.